morning has broken, and we are your consecrated hosts.
I'm Jonathan, consecrated by baptism.
Father Jeff, consecrated by holy orders. Here we are, midweek, Jonathan, Wednesday, October
14th.
14th. How you doing?
Good.
We're at the halfway point.
Good. I'm good because the evenings are still nice and warm, nice and pleasant to be outside.
Warm. Well, they're not bad. Yeah, it's a beautiful week. This is beautiful fall weather.
Beautiful. I think we still have one more heat wave come through.
You think so?
I think I saw somewhere it was going to be like 79.
You know, the way this world works, the way this state works in Nebraska, we can have nice weather all the way through November. I mean, we can have it into December. That's the thing. Winter doesn't always hit us until after January.
It's true.
I know. So you never know what you're going to get. Are you going to get a pleasant fall? Are you going to get an early winter? What's going to happen? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't mind winter hitting us. I mean, I do mind, but you have to live in Nebraska, so you have to.
Winter's coming.
Winter's
coming.
But I like it when it doesn't just linger. When we have kind of it's winter in October.
No.
And May.
No.
And all the way through.
We want fall to last for a while, and then we can start to roll into winter without it being maybe not a frozen tundra sort of winter, but a nice winter.
With some sunny days.
Yeah. So are you all done going to the pumpkin patch, or when
No.
you've got that family pass?
Yeah.
How long is the pumpkin patch open? When is its
At
closing
least until
date?
October 31st.
Does it go to the end of October?
I think so.
It doesn't stretch into November, does it? Are they
I'm
just
not
a
sure.
September, October deal?
Yeah.
I think
So I think that's why it's so expensive.
I think they might be November as well.
Not all of November.
Not all of November for sure.
But maybe a couple days in November, maybe one weekend.
Yeah, I don't know. And the price goes up like in October.
Oh,
I
yeah.
noticed because I was looking at this on the website, and it was like it's something in September, and then once you roll into October, it bumps up another $5-6.
I think they raised their prices even more this year. It's because when we went with my dad and stepmom,
sure.
it was I think $26 for each of them to get
That
in.
sounds right.
And it's on a weekend. That's a little.
It's steep.
That's steep.
Especially if you're bringing, because it's not, there's no family option. Everything is individualized options.
And there's no age option. It's once you
Right.
turn 3, you're paying.
No freebies for those kids.
Yeah, so it
Let
makes
them
sense.
pull their own weight. Get a job.
You have to. Yeah, so
Awesome.
doing the pass is the way to go because I think we paid about $45 a person.
And then, yeah, you have to go. I think I figured it out. You have to go like at least 2.5 times to make it to make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
If you don't go at least 2.5 times to the pumpkin patch, then you're better off just doing pay by.
Maybe
when we
we'll
show
go
up.
tonight.
All right, maybe.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, today is the feast of Saint Callistus. He's one of those saints that you hear mentioned in the Roman canon, I believe. When we have all of the saints' names, that for Linus, Cletus, Clement, Sixtus, Cornelius.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of where Callistus would come in.
Maybe he doesn't.
'Cause I don't-
Linus,
yeah,
Cletus,
I'm
Clement,
try-
Sixtus, Cornelius, Cyprian, Lawrence, Chrysogonus, John, and Paul. Nope, he doesn't come in there. Never mind. He was a little after that point. He was 4th century, I guess. Somewhere in there.
Oh,
So
he's much too modern.
He's much too modern for the ancient Roman canon. Exactly. Interesting note, he was from a slave background before he became pope. So, I mean, really talk about the pauper and the prince, or the prince and the pauper. I mean, going from one extreme to the other. So he apparently was a slave or slave family. I'm not exactly sure all of the details. They get lost in history. He was ordained a deacon. He eventually became a deacon. And then from the diaconate, he was elected pope. So a lot of those early popes passed over the presbyterate, passed over the priesthood, and went right from deacon to bishop pope.
Which accounts for some interesting selections of. Well, even then, wasn't there a saint that was elected a bishop because a bird pooped on him?
Well, there are stories. I don't know if it was pooped on him or landed on his shoulder, perhaps.
I heard pooped on him.
I'm sure you did. The grainier telling of that story. Yeah, the more delightful telling is the bird hovered gently above his head in a beam of light and blah, 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 blah.
Oh, I'm sure he pooped
I think that
on
was
him.
Pope St. Gregory the Great.
It might have been. We just had that.
Because you always see him in Gregory's iconography, there's usually a dove.
Well, that's much more befitting than
getting a little bird dropping.
He always has a smudge on his shoulder.
There it is. Yeah, can you imagine those pictures of the Pope or the statue?
No one remembers anything I did, but they remember what that bird did.
They remember what the bird did. Oh dear. Well, Callistus was involved in a lot of controversy because he lived in a time of persecution and peace. So it was this very tumultuous time. Depending on who the emperor was and what the government of Rome was doing, you either had people who were at peace, the church was at peace, or the church was being persecuted. And so these one of the big controversies was that Callistus had to answer the question, what do we do with weak and poor Christians? Like these people that maybe gave in to the persecution, denied their faith, so on and so forth.
So quote unquote bad Christians.
Yeah. These were bad Catholics. And there were some in the church, like Saint Hippolytus, the first anti-pope, by the way.
But he's a saint?
He's a saint. He reconciled before he died. He was one of these hard-line rigorists that if you're going to be Catholic, if you're going to be Christian, then you need to follow the rules and you need to do everything just so. Kind of the modern-day Pharisee. And Callistus took a very different approach, as the scriptures do, as Jesus teaches us. I didn't come to demand sacrifice. I came for mercy. And go and learn the meaning of the word mercy, he keeps saying over and over again. So he really, realized that the Christian community had to be a community where weak and struggling people came to be together to find strength. And when they fell, which they would do over and over again, as every one of you have, as we have, the church is there to pick you up and not to chastise you. So it really was we were talking about this, the difference between mercy and justice. Yeah. It's like there's just such a cry for justice when really the Lord is calling us to mercy. So Callistus is sainted because of his, the church's, I suppose, he was a precursor to Pope Francis, who really describes the church as a field hospital, that we are the place where the sick and the weak and the sinner comes to be healed and reconciled with God.
I'm just imagining being excommunicated for sinning.
Yeah. Can you imagine? It's like, you're just a bad Catholic, Jonathan. Go away. We don't want you anymore. Yeah, it would be a very small church. I think the church would evaporate in less than a generation.
Because that's when you look at the extremes, and I think it's healthy to look at extremes sometimes when you're, especially within the Catholic faith. If you are so rigorous, the extreme is, you sinned, that means you are cut off.
Done.
However, if you have enough mercy, you cannot have too much mercy. It's like, you are very merciful. God bless you.
Yeah.
It doesn't, taken to an extreme, mercy is...
I suppose you could get into the question of codependency, where mercy then is no longer mercy, but morphs into something else, right, where it supports and enables.
But then it's no longer mercy.
It's no longer mercy. It becomes something else. And so that's the thing. Well, let's talk about these virtues, because that is what our chapter is about today.
It is.
I think chapter 29.
29.
So in this chapter... we see that the war is heating up, and that's exactly how Screwtape begins his letter to Wormwood. That it is certain that the Germans are going to bomb this town. That we know that it's going to happen. This is where everything is headed, and this guy, he's going to be in the thick of danger. And so, what do we do? What do we want to do? Do we want to aim at making your guy a coward, or at courage? That usually you might get puffed up with pride or hatred. Like, where do we go? What's going to be our attack? Let's plan our attack. Do we want a coward? Do we want someone with courage that we can puff up into pride? Or do we want just to make him hate those Germans? So he says, well, here in hell, we really can't make him brave. We don't know we don't know what the formula is for crafting a virtue. We don't know how to make a virtue down here in hell. That's something that our research department is working on it, but we can't figure out how to make any man virtuous. And that's a problem. Because, I love this line, to be greatly and effectively wicked, a man needs some virtue. You need to be a little good, so that then what the evil one does is they twist that good, and this is where the rigorism, this is where the puffed up zeal jumps into place. Like, you get someone who's a little good, and then you push that into the extreme, and you get really wickedness. The most wicked people had some virtue, and he goes through a little list of ones, like Attila the Hun, the barbarian invader who swept across Europe and down into the Italian peninsula. He was appeared to be a vicious warlord, but where would he be if he didn't have some courage to drive him and move him along?
He would have been sitting at home twiddling his thumbs,
doing his knitting. Imagine Attila the Hun sitting there with his ball of yarn knitting a cozy for his whatever they drank.
Well, that would have been lovely.
So that's an interesting thought that really, which goes to remind us that even the most wicked person has some good in him. Oh, we're gonna have so many Star Wars references today, Jonathan.
Oh dear.
Because Darth Vader. He was seen as being wicked and horrible and whatever, and Luke Skywalker was convinced, his son was convinced.
Father Jeff!
Don't know the movies! Whoops, spoiler alert! Luke Skywalker is Darth Vader's son. If you don't know that by now, it's your own fault. Anyway, he had this sense that there is good in him. I can feel it. That at the core is something very good.
I might have to mute that. Just go boop.
No, you just need to put spoiler alert. Star Wars spoiler alert coming up. I don't think people care. If you haven't seen Star Wars already, you probably aren't going to.
There are families with young kids. That was Genevieve's first Star Wars movie.
Again.
Genevieve's first Star Wars movie.
Empire Strikes Back?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And it ruined everything.
Oh, no. Well, that's sad. Okay. Moving on. So what do? There's this, we really want to, we cannot give him virtue, so we're stuck, because everything is now in God's favor. Mm-hmm. That God can give him virtue, and then God can take that virtue and lead him to heaven, as opposed to twisting that virtue and pulling him into hell. So, but he says hatred, we can work with hatred, so let's make him hate. Mm-hmm. And it's easy, and he goes through this laundry list of things. Tension of human nerves during the noise and danger and fatigue makes people prone to violent emotions and by the guiding of right channels. So, you know how it is. You're worn down, you get crabby, someone then just pushes that one button and you explode, and it just becomes so easy to lash out in hatred when you are worn down.
Yeah, the times I get angriest at my kids is when I'm tired and over it, and then my patience runs low.
Yep.
Everything is low, and it's not necessarily anything they did. It's usually mostly about me.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they're not doing what I want them to do. They're doing what a 5-year-old would normally do.
Right. I blame the parents.
That's very easy for you to do. Yes. However, you are our father, so you are kind of a parent,
Jonathan,
to all of us.
Jonathan. We don't want to get too far off track here. Let's stick with our journey here in the book. So we can build up this hatred, especially if we make it like self-righteous, or like a righteous. We hear this all the time. This righteous anger, like, I should be righteously angry for these people who are being subdued or these people who are being taken advantage of. I'm going to be angry for them and I'm going to hate their oppressors.
Well, now that you said it was righteous anger, you're justified.
Exactly. This is where that little bit of goodness comes in, because it's like, I'm doing this good thing. You can be righteously angry. Anger is not a sin. Wrath is a sin. Destructive anger. But constructive anger is that which leads to justice, that which leads to equality, that which leads to societal change for the better. Like, if I am angry about something, the question is, what do I now do with this anger? That's going to make it either sinful or good. Does this anger move me to do something good, or does this anger move me to destroy and hate? That would be a bad thing. Going back to Star Wars, in the Attack of the Clones, this young Anakin Skywalker...
What's Attack of the Clones,
It's the second prequel movie of the Star Wars saga. So he learned that his mother was kidnapped, and he found where she was, and that she was being kept as a slave and whatnot. And he was so angry at the captors, the Sand People, who captured her, that he slaughtered the entire tribe. Men, women, and children, destroyed them all.
Anything in his wake, in his path.
The anger was unleashed. And that's what happens. It seems like a righteous thing. He could have rescued his mother and gotten her out of there, but he didn't. He turned that anger onto them. There's another spoiler in there, but I won't give it away. I'll save some things for those of you that are going to watch that film. So hatred is best combined with fear. Because cowardice, he says, is one of those things that you don't get pleasure out of. Nobody feels good about themselves for being a coward. In the moment, nobody looks forward to being a coward, and nobody remembers cowardice fondly. So it's like one of those things that completely chip away at your sense of self-worth. So if we can now get someone to fear and that hatred.
Anger too.
Well, that's yes. What we do is we move him into cowardice, which will make the person feel bad, and then hate himself for being a coward, and then that hatred compensates for my weakness, because hatred always feels powerful. Mm-hmm. Anger feels powerful. That's why I think we turn to it, because we feel weak, we feel vulnerable, and so then we blow up in anger. Look at how powerful I am. Can you put a Batman pow on that?
You had a crown yesterday.
No. And that was the little... If you watched the 1960s or 70s Batman show. Adam West. Yeah.
I have that Batman on DVD.
I loved it that when I was a kid. I mean, that was the Batman I grew up with. He wasn't scary. He wasn't dark. Not at all. All right. The more he fears, the more he will hate. Also from the Attack of the Clone, Star Wars, Yoda makes a prophecy, the Jedi Master, and he reminds Anakin that fear leads to hatred, hatred leads to anger, anger leads to suffering. Or fear leads to hate, hate leads to anger, anger. It's something like that. I think that's right.
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering.
But boy, that's true. Like, if I fear, I'm afraid of something, I hate it. The more I hate, I get angry, and the angrier I am is going to cause suffering, not only for myself, but also for others. So oftentimes when we find ourselves being angry or hating, it really goes back. I mean, that's a moment we should look in the mirror and say, what am I afraid of? What am I afraid of? There's so many things that if you're watching television, if you're watching the news, if you're scrolling through your social media feed or whatever, there are things that make you angry. You start to hate various celebrities or politicians or world leaders or whatever, and you see other people doing that on their walls or their social media feeds, stop and ask yourself, what am I afraid of? There is a fear of something that has caused me to get angry and has caused me to hate. And that is not their problem, that is your problem. That's our problem.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking, especially we're in the political season, in the way that people on any side talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump is like they are less than human. Mm-hmm. And
it'll be the complete collapse of life as we know it if that one or that one is elected.
And neither of them are probably people you want to have dinner with or, watch your grandchildren or kids. But,
well, it depends. Maybe not so much.
What's been portrayed anyways.
Maybe neither one of them are who I want for president. I might enjoy dinner with them or, a trip out on a yacht, but I don't necessarily want them to be president.
But yeah, so there's a lot of people, that you wouldn't want to have dinner with, and things like that. And it's just, they're humans too, and we aren't, I've heard the phrase thrown out, hate the sin, not the sinner.
Yep, that's a good
thing. And things like that, and it's just like, but the bottom line is they are humans, and we speak about them as if they're not. And there's nobody who we should speak about that way in any terms. Even, like you said, even the worst soul, God still wants them to be in heaven.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so very true.
We cannot hate.
We want salvation for all, if possible.
Hate does not allow for any mercy.
No. Hate only demands justice and destruction. And not even justice, but annihilation. Like, I want you to be gone.
Obliterated.
I want you to be gone. Be gone. So the if we can just keep ratcheting up the fear. And I think you see both sides of the political spectrum doing this. That either you need to fear the pandemic more than just being prudently cautious. You actually need to fear this, so lock yourself up and hide yourself away. Or the other side will say you need to fear the terrible unrest and rioting and destruction of America as it is burning. I mean, it's just these, let's stir up fear, let's stir up hate, let's stir up all of these things, which is exhausting.
Yeah.
It leads to division and
destruction.
Destruction.
All destructive.
Both the America will be destroyed by completely shuttering and shutting down, or by burning it down. I mean, either way, it's destroyed. So if you buy either one of those arguments, you are a destructionist. A Destructicon from the Transformers. They merge together to form Devastator.
Did you see your little T-Rex guy make an appearance?
I saw that, Grimlock. Maybe Devastator will now make an appearance. When the 6 Constructicons get together, they form the evil Devastator.
I never saw any Transformers. Not even the new movies. I know Optimus Prime.
I am judging you severely.
There's Optimus Prime and Rumble.
I will have mercy upon you.
Is it Rumblebee?
What?
Bumblebee?
Bumblebee. Yes. He's the little Volkswagen bug that transforms. Oh my gosh. So, let's moving on.
At least I didn't say what's Star Wars.
Let's move on. So, we're in the middle of this war, and we're trying to figure out now what vice we want to get this. And he begins talking about how, again, cowardice, you can't make a person proud of cowardice. But you can make people proud of other vices. Vanity, lust, anger, greed. People can brag about these things, but cowardice, not so much. And when you get this, you move into, again, the difference between guilt and shame. If our person begins to feel guilty about his cowardice, there could be repentance and then sanctity. The trick is to move cowardice into shame, which then leads further into despair. Mm-hmm. So we just want them to ignore good and evil altogether. Just make them focus on the danger. Here's the danger. Be afraid. Don't ask yourself what is good or bad. Be afraid. Otherwise, yeah.
You might realize what you're actually doing.
Which is exactly why I love this paragraph here on page 161 of this version of the book. This indeed is probably one of the enemy's, God's, motives for creating a dangerous world. A world in which moral issues really come to the point. Like, if the world were not dangerous, we would not think about right or wrong, good or evil as much as we do, because our life depends on it. That a dangerous world really forces us to focus on death, and if I'm ready for death. But if world was just a big Barca-lounger, well, hey, I'm just reclining and
no need for speed limits,
pushing the nice little. Oh, this feels delightful. I'm in my chair, getting my little massage, and in my comfort zone, and yeah.
I mean, most laws are in effect to protect us.
Exactly, because the world is dangerous, and that's not a flaw. That it's like God purposely creates a dangerous world to keep us alert, to keep us, all right, folks. You're no longer in paradise, but that's actually going to work for your good because you're going to be cautious and careful. He talks about courage then as the testing point of every virtue. Like every virtue rests on courage, because what good is chastity or honesty or mercy if it yields to danger and gives in? If you can be patient, but if you don't have courage to carry you through, to persevere, patience is going to die.
Perseverance coming back.
There's perseverance again. But you have to have the courage. If this danger or this temptation or this evil is coming at me, and I am, I'm going to be whatever, valiant, or I'm going to be loving, or I'm going to be merciful, and then when it appears that I'm going to lose my life or whatnot, and I give in, and I'm not merciful, or I'm not loving, or I'm not patient, without courage, every virtue falls.
Oh, Father, I can resist anything until I get a little uncomfortable.
Until I'm uncomfortable. Exactly. I can resist anything, unless I'm uncomfortable. Then I can't. And that's true. And then, once again, we've spoken about the tenacity of the martyrs. This is why the martyr's witness is so beautiful. St. Callistus today, martyred for his perseverance under persecution. That he and all of those martyrs, it's not that someone killed them that made them saints. It's that they didn't give up virtue in the face of death. They would rather die than sin. That's amazing.
That is.
Would I rather die than sin? I can think of a bunch of sins that I didn't die when,
However, that every sin does kill our soul.
It does. Yeah.
And so it
in
just,
some way.
We should hate sin enough that we would be willing to die.
I think that's the one thing that you are permitted to hate. Hate sin, which is kind of an abstract concept, but you can hate that
It's the absence of God.
Yeah.
So
you can hate the emptiness, the void. Despair is the greater sin than any of the sins that provoke it, because despair is when you have no hope. And we talked about that just recently too. So all of this is building now. That if you lose hope, and that's what fear does, and when you lose courage, boy, you're just stuck in this small little room that's dark and dank and dreary, and you're holding yourself in. It's the beautiful scene in the last battle of the Chronicles of Narnia that C.S. Lewis wrote about those little trolls that were living in fear in a little shed, afraid of everything going on around them, so much so that they didn't even realize they were sitting next to each other anymore, because they were so afraid the possibility of encountering anything outside of myself is a danger. And it was just, that is the very description of hell. To be so despairing that you cannot be saved. So all of this wraps up. The point is to keep him feeling that he has something other than the enemy and the courage that the enemy supplies to fall back in. So I guess I should go back that what he wants us to do is, rather than what God would want us to do, ask the question, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to do this. What the evil one wants us to do is to start coming up with a bunch of hypotheticals. If A happens, which I really hope it wouldn't, well, I could do this. But if that happens, then I could always do this. And you start drawing your roadmap, almost that flow chart, and you've seen those flow charts. If yes, go this way. It's kind of the choose your own adventure story. Yeah. And that's what the evil one wants you to do. Rather than making a decision, rather than saying, there's a danger, this is right, this is wrong. Okay, I'm going to do the right thing. And I don't care what happens because of that. I'm going to do the right thing. The evil one wants you to think, okay, there's this or this. Well, if I do this, then he's going to think that about me, and that's going to cause this person to do that. So maybe I'll alter that a little bit, and then that could, okay, then, and so you start trying to imagine what the hypothetical situations are going to be, and you just get yourself all worked up in anxiety, and you never act.
Yeah, you never act.
You don't do the good. And that's ultimately the bottom line. Remember, the act of cowardice is all that matters. The emotion of fear is not a sin, and though we enjoy it, it does us no good. It all goes back to remembering that your feelings are neither virtuous nor sinful. It's what you do with those that are virtuous or sinful. Anger is neither virtuous nor sinful. What do I do with it? Fear is neither virtuous nor sinful. What do I do with it? And there's good ones too, the good feelings as well. Pleasure is neither good nor evil. It's what do I do with that that makes it good or bad. So there's all kinds of little nuggets here to take away, that just choose what is right and good and do it, and don't go down the rabbit hole of, well, if this, then that, then this, then that. What did you title this chapter, Jonathan?
I don't have a title yet.
Oh.
Well,
I said, building up virtue to tear a man down. You need a little virtue in order to cause him to fall. Put him up on that pedestal and then pitch him off of it.
I will come back with a title for today.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
We're going to forget tomorrow, John.
I will not forget.
All right, fine, whatever. Your mind wasn't working today.
Not for a title. It was, it's...
Would you like me to give you a title?
No.
Okay.
You already have a title.
I have a title, but I'm willing to give titles out. All right. Why don't you guys have a great rest of your day, and we will see you tomorrow.
Tomorrow, Thursday, October 15th.
But that's not today.
Month? No, that's tomorrow.
Oh, the middle of the month.
Yeah.
We're not there yet.
We still got a long ways to go.
Bye-bye.
Several hours.